freedom, freedom, freedom over fame, freedom over cycle stays the same.
And recording in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome, everyone, back to another episode of Band Together, where we dive into the world of banned books to uncover the stories and ideas that make them so powerful and sometimes so controversial. I am one of your hosts, Adriana.
And I'm your co-host, Jeanna Macrina.
I know you guys are used to Jeanna doing the intros, but I want to take a stab at it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't call you band babes, though. I refuse.
She's rebelling against your band baddies titles.
See, I even called you the wrong name.
A flip-flop.
Flip-flop.
It's still, it's a testament to the lack of creativity because those have been the only two that I've fallen on at this point in time.
You gave up on bandits.
That was the one.
I hated that.
That was you liked that one the most, you said.
Did I? I don't remember.
I have that recorded. You're all, I like bandits.
To be really fair, I don't remember. I'm just assuming I hated it because I hate it right now.
Sometimes I think the
whatever you like, I'm just going to pick the opposite. No, that's not true. Although, okay, so side note, this is not sponsored, but if anyone knows and has connections in San Diego, California, and would like to get us in touch with Babe's Kombucha, I would do a cross promotion because we have just discovered. We discovered where we live. There's a place called Jimbo's. It's a magical place. This is not relevant to anything about books.
It's relevant to a lot of things.
There's a place called Jimbo's. It's magical. It's amazing. It's a grocery store, and they have all organic stuff. And apparently, Jimbo's walks around and he says hello to people. And if this gets in the right hands, Jimbo, listen. I hear that you go to the Carlsbad location. I'm not going to tell you where in San Diego we are, but visit more than just Carlsbad. How about that?
Jimbo, reach out to us and we have a lot of things to talk about.
Really fond of your...
Yeah. We just want to hang out.
You seem like a cool guy.
It has
Anyways,
nothing.
But aside from Jimbo, so we found this kombucha. It's called Babe's Kombucha. Mm-hmm. And they also apparently make a yerba, which is like chef's kiss. I had it yesterday. I had the papaya guava. Was it papaya? Passion fruit guava.
Passion fruit guava.
Fucking amazing. Fucking amazing. Because I love coffee. Don't get me wrong. I love a good latte. I will make cold brews at home, do the whole thing. But there's something so lovely and almost mixed drinky feeling about a really good yerba or kombucha. Mm-hmm. And it really hit everything. It's so smooth. Again, not a promo. It was so smooth. It was so tasty. I 10 out of 10 recommend. Mm-hmm. And the packaging, beautiful.
It appeals to the lesbian community, I would say.
It's not specific to lesbians, but
it appeals to us.
I didn't think about my own sexuality when I was picking it out.
The fact that there's a whole ass woman just on the packaging and it's called Babes.
Her hair's flowing. I didn't put the pieces together. And this is why I didn't know I was gay.
Yeah, and cut to Adriana not knowing that she was a lesbian until
mid-30s, early 30s.
Yeah, we've been together for 3 years, so that puts you to your early 30 mark.
Yeah, that's true.
If you could see her face, you could see the reflection of time passing on her face, like she just bit that off and chewed it real time. But anyway, I actually concur. I don't do coffee, but
we're good.
I will say the Babes yerba is the best yerba I've had
so
today.
Good. We've tried a lot of yerba in our time. There's a brand called Clean, pretty decent.
Love it. And
decent. There's the weird one. What's it called?
It's called Weird Yerba. They also make weird water and a bunch of other things.
I haven't actually tried them. You have them a lot, but I don't ever try them.
So I can't speak for Babes, but since we're going down this yerba rabbit hole, I know Weird Yerba and Clean, they both donate to good causes. Like Clean donates to NA, I believe.
Oh, yeah, I did see that. And that's why I like them. We did buy cases of them.
Yeah, just to support. And they have very good yerba as well. I really like the weird yerba with the mint flavors. I think it's the purest mint flavor I've ever had. And
oh, you did have me try that one. It tasted like a literal piece of mint was in there.
Yeah, which was fantastic. So I would say those three, they're competing against each other in the Jeanna Macrina eyes. I can go for either one of those and I'll be happy. But I do recently discovered Babes. Great job. And just
yerba plugs aside.
Yeah. I have ADD, so coffee makes me tired. Just a short explanation of that.
It's so sad.
Yeah, it makes me grumpy too.
Okay, so my favorite thing is that so this is the difference between Jeanna and I. She's just like this thoughtful, sweet, considerate, loving human who like, I'm like, hey, I've been diagnosed with complex PTSD. And she like consumed as much content about complex PTSD as she could to better understand me. And she's told me she's dyslexic and has ADHD. And I still have like surface level knowledge of it. I'm like, oh, that's right. You're dyslexic. Or like I'll offer her coffee and she's, remember, I have ADHD. And I've made her get lattes before. And then she's grumpy and tired after it. And then I wonder why.
So I will say that surface level knowledge is a stretch, but there's so many other ways that Adri is beautiful and fantastic, and she never, not one day, leaves me feeling unloved. So let's
cheesy. We're so gay.
We're so gay. What are you gay?
Have you guys seen that clip? I love that. We quote it to each other all the time.
It goes, what are you gay? Who says I'm gay?
You are gay.
You are gay.
I don't know where it's like an interview.
It's one of those like pop culture moments that we look back on, and it's hysterical.
Every once in a while it'll be like, you are gay.
It's like we send each other little like love notes when we're at work, and they're super like
cheesy,
detailed and cheesy. Yeah. And then right afterwards we go, you are gay.
Okay, so anyways, so this week, would you like to drum roll, please?
Yeah, so this week, this was my pick, and it's Persepolis.
By
Marjane Satrapi.
I think Marjane feels like the most American way to say that. Marjane is like, but I don't know because she is.
We looked it up.
She is born in Iran, but she's also part French. So she's French Iranian. So it could be Marjane.
Yeah, because that name can also be very French-centric.
A little bit about the author. She was born in 1969. She's French-Iranian, and she's a graphic novelist, cartoonist, illustrator, film director, and child's book author. She's best known for her graphic novel Persepolis, which is what we did today. We actually only did part 1 of Persepolis, but it is a whole series. And I
just found that out.
Which it was her pick, and I was surprised that she just found that out. But nonetheless, we're not going to judge her. I'm going to judge her a little.
Maybe a little.
Yeah. But the first book does leave you in a cliffhanger. So spoiler alert, obviously we're going to talk about the book and do a quick summary. But this book basically follows, it's a graphic memoir. So it's really cool. I hadn't heard about this book. Jeanna introduced it to me. It is very much like comic book series, like literally a graphic novel. Yeah. I'm not used to reading books like that, so it was like really interesting. But she does a really cool job of infusing such a childhood lens into her experience as the Iranian Revolution was happening and as the implementation of
it's like
Sharia law happening in Iran. We get to see her parents are very much activist. I think her great-grandfather, I don't remember the name, I can look it up. So her maternal great-grandfather, Nasir al-Din Shah, was the Persian emperor from 1848 to 1896. And then her paternal uncle, Anush, was actually an exile who was in the Soviet Union and then comes back. And then we get to follow her experience with him returning, kind of him enlightening her, because her parents are very much doing the parent thing, which is don't go out and protest and don't be in these dangerous places in the world. And we get to see a child's perspective of having two very politically activist parents and what that kind of looks like, especially in a world that was very much changing around her. And we get to see her go from going to school in a French school, and then suddenly they have to wear veils. And everything in between. And so the end of the first book ends us with her parents sending her off to Austria. And from what I hear, she does end up making her way back to Iran. So again, I will be reading the rest of the series. We likely won't cover it here, but
We might.
Yeah, but could not recommend this more.
And it's actually a short read because
we read it
it's 160 pages-ish. And we read it in about a couple hours, honestly. And I really liked that you had mentioned that it reminded you of Anne Frank, because I had not put those two dots together.
God, yeah, it totally. It's just like two brain cells in my head rubbing together, going young girl. But no, I find it so cool, and I'm always going to tie it back. We recently saw Bisan win the Emmy for her whole series on It's Bisan, I'm Still Alive, and it's just I find it so like such a source of pride through the years, like. Anne Frank was like in the 40s, right? Like 1940 something. The Iranian War was through the late 70s, and then Bisan.
And the 80s.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
This one specifically was like 78, 79. And then, so Anne Frank was through the 40s, through like the, obviously through the Holocaust. This was through the Iranian war or revolution, which was late 70s. And then we have Bisan right now with Gaza and Palestine in the 2020s. And all of them are like, we are almost at a full 100-year loop of young women telling their story in the way that they best can with the resources that they have around them. We go back 80 years to Anne Frank, and we have her writing in a journal. And then we have Bisan with her iPhone documenting the atrocities that are happening in Palestine. Yeah, in this is just another story of another powerful and truly, and this like, with the most humility, someone who you can hear their fear and their confusion through it. Like we hear it through Anne Frank, we hear it through Marjane, we hear it through Bisan. They're scared as they're experiencing these things in life.
As they should be.
As they should be, because these are atrocities that they've experienced. And yet their bravery is what keeps us like going, okay, I have it. I have a lifeline to what this felt like and what they were going through. And I can stand in their shoes. And that's the beauty to me about a book. That's the beauty of literature in general, is that we get to tell our stories like far after we've gone. Right? So yeah, I loved this book. We should probably get into a little bit about why and where it's been banned. So should we do a summary of the book first, or should we do?
Let's do a summary of the book, and then we can talk about when it's been banned.
Go for it.
All right. So we've covered all of these details. Adriana does a really good job of, it's actually really cute before we start recording. She sits and actually periodically as well.
Yeah, I have to include that.
No, it's adorable. So she's just so good at rounding up details and getting all those things together. And she just pays a lot of attention to the details. And
I just don't want to look like a chump.
in everything that she does. It's not just the podcast. She just has, when she does something, she does it right. It's admirable. So going to a little bit of summary of the book, and I will talk a little bit about why I chose it. Persepolis, as we talked about, autobiographical graphic novel. Marjane Satrapi is basically a rock star, and she's detailing her childhood and early adulthood during the Islamic Revolution in Iran. The book was set in the 1970s and the 1980s. It captures the impact of the revolution, the establishment of the Islamic Republic, and the subsequent Iran-Iraq War. Marjane was born, like we talked about, into a very liberal and politically active family, really definitely contributing to her rock starness. And she just undergoes a bunch of societal changes, restrictions, and personal freedoms, and the loss of her individual rights, specifically and completely directed at women. As she grows older, her rebellion against the regime leads her to confront the tensions between her Iranian family identity and her exposure to the Western culture. She was super into like punk rock music and stuff like that, which, as we know, is just some of the most defiant music that you can listen to, especially because punk rock they defy even their own capability to play the musical instruments sometimes. And that's the beauty of it.
And if I can interject just like a quick, the Iranian War or the Iranian Revolution was really like a dismantling of everything Western within Iran.
Yeah, because women were just running around like, if you look at those pictures.
I saw one that was so beautiful. It was like a woman celebrating her birthday, and she's just wearing a fitted blouse and a skirt, and she looked very much fashionable for the times. And maybe that is, I am not closed off to the opinion that is just like my Western views on what's right and wrong. But regardless of like fashion and ability to access pop culture and things like that, there are so many things about the Iranian Revolution that just and the implementation of Sharia law that had a lot of like economic, political, just obviously human rights.
It took away the ability to make the choice of how you wanted to dress.
Yeah.
And that's the big thing, is if you want to uphold these traditions, that's totally okay.
Yeah. And people do it here. There are people that are fully dressed. They are in traditional wear, but that's their choice to do that. And if they don't want to do that, they absolutely don't have to.
Yeah. And just to reiterate again, because I don't want to come at this with the ignorance of the Western culture, I do think that when we're wearing hijabs, things like that, if you choose to do so, if that makes you feel close to your religion, more like yourself, I love that. But you shouldn't have to worry about your physical well-being or whether or not you'll be murdered because you're wearing it correctly, incorrectly. And we saw that back in September of 2022 when Mahsa Amini was beat to death because she wasn't wearing her hijab to the liking of the authorities. So she actually still was wearing it.
Yeah.
Just not,
I remember this.
Not in the way that the authorities wanted. So she died in the hospital. There was a lot of protests after that. There was a lot of people who were imprisoned, beaten, raped because they were protesting her death. So we're still seeing this discrimination, these violences to this day. And that's a huge problem. I'm just so tired of men thinking that they can just do what the fuck they want just because they are alive.
And I think that truly the hero of the book, and it's not like a surprise, it is Marjane. And it's just like her cool little, like just she's like a full-on defiant spirit.
Yeah,
like,
she's her whole life.
Her whole life is like in defiance.
And she's never put herself in a box.
No.
She's a filmmaker. She illustrates. She writes.
Yeah.
She's moving. She is fucking grooving. Like,
it's the definition of the like, I didn't thrive because of you. I thrived in spite of you in everything she's experienced.
And I think the real unsung heroes of this book, I would say, are her parents.
That must have been such a hard choice to send her away. But I mean, it had.
Totally.
Yeah. But I get it.
Spoiler alert at the end of the book. They send her away.
Oh, I think I said that.
Yeah.
She gets sent to Austria.
Yeah, she gets into Austria and France just to go finish her education. It's just too dangerous.
Yeah.
In Iran. Let's talk about where it's been banned.
So, yeah, let's talk about where it's been banned. The whole point of the book, huh? So, one of the most publicized instances was in 2013 right here in the U.S. where Chicago public schools decided to remove it from classrooms and partially removed it from libraries. The reason was that the book was contained graphic language and images and were deemed inappropriate for some students. But let's not forget that Persepolis isn't just a book about war. It's a personal story that shows the impact of violence and oppression on a young person's life. And it's supposed to make us feel uncomfortable. And it's supposed to make us think, like, she addresses not only the violence, not only her, I think we like loosely touched on it, but her uncle Anush returns to Iran, is arrested, and then she finds out that he is sentenced to death.
Unalived.
Sentenced to death, though. We experience all the ups and downs, and my favorite part that we haven't touched on is early on, she's like, I'm a prophet, right? She's like talking to God, and she's, I'm a prophet. That's me. And then there's all the stuff that goes with it. Right after she finds out about her uncle, she turns her back on God for a split second. And she's, nope, no thanks. Like,
as we all do.
Yeah. And I found it such an endearing way to talk about that disillusion with religion and disillusion in faith for the first time, right? Because up until then, she's speaking to God very faithfully, like very much within, I believe in you and I
want to be a prophet.
And I want to be a prophet. And I felt that so hard, that feeling of the first letdown where you go like, why is the world the way that it is? And why do these things happen to the people that we love, trust, believe in, if they're quote unquote good, right? Because
complexities.
Yeah. And I loved that. Anyways, all that, I'm sure you guys can understand why places like Texas, Illinois, and honestly, surprisingly to me, and California, it's been challenged for reasons similar to it being too political. But again, if we dig deeper, what's really being challenged is the portrayal of religion against authority and its critique of both the Iranian regime and Western intervention, because she does address Western intervention in her book. Do I think this book is worth being banned? No, absolutely not. In my opinion, absolutely not. I don't even think the way that they address violence is too graphic. I think that this book is
very tame.
It's super tame. I think it's a really digestible way for the introduction of a really big historical event that happened in the world and something that has changed. We're still feeling the repercussions of something that I'm not well versed in, something I probably should have learned about sooner. But no, I don't think this book should be banned to me.
Yeah, I feel like it's being banned due to its critical thinking. I think that the author embodies a spirit that I wish more of us did. And honestly, if I would have gotten a hold of this book when I was in my teenage years, I would be a less ignorant Jeanna today. And obviously, we have this podcast, so we're literally testifying against banning books just about just every episode. But
okay. Side note, we may have a book that we recommend banning. To be determined.
Oh yeah.
Let's not.
We don't want to get too
much
far
away.
We're gonna invite somebody on the
pod.
We're gonna
guest speakers.
We're just probably one, but maybe two if they both want to do it.
I think so.
We need to actually read one of them. We need to read more into the book, and we need to read the book to its completion.
Yeah,
and kind of figure out its history and stuff like that before we can actually.
But just a little
definitively, but in the future,
just a little idea.
Yeah.
Seedling. Anyways. We are against banning books, though, generally speaking.
in general, when we start burning books, when we start banning books, it's usually a terrible thing, right? So
we're just losing knowledge. We're just losing context. We're losing us. It's like a photo. I find it to just be like a moment of time of what was true for someone, right?
Well, it's because these books should be allowed to exist, and there's no need to ban them. There's just really more of a incentive to participate with your children and know what they are consuming.
Yeah.
What was it we were talking about in the car earlier today when you said that you had, and we don't have the exact statistics, so I don't know if we can't really nail it down numbers wise or give you a graph or anything, but you had said that you had read that most adults that
I can look that up,
that have not progressed in higher education do not read books after they graduate high school. And I know for a fact that translates into the parent-child relationship. And so most of the time you're banning books that you know nothing about and you haven't read to their completion.
Here's what it is. Only 32% of the U.S. population read books for pleasure. 32%. The average American reads only 12 books per year. That's actually higher than I would think.
Yeah.
42% of college graduates never read another book after college. Reading just for 6 minutes can reduce stress levels by 68%.
And I will say that Adriana reads all the time.
To read. I do love to read.
And I do believe this little slogan that readers are leaders. I think that's absolutely true.
I really do, whether it's fiction, nonfiction, whether it's a memoir, whether it's a self-help book. I think, like I said earlier, a book is like a snapshot. It's a look into someone's mind. And whether it's like a novel that it's just for fun, like an ACOTAR kind of a thing, like that's fun and it's like an escape and it's its own little thing. But if you're reading books like Persepolis, or even the story of a young girl like Anne Frank, or really anything that's going to give you any kind of historical context. It's also a snapshot of what they were experiencing at this time, and it allows me to empathize and look outside of myself, because I think just the nature of most of us is that we don't think about what's happening outside of our bubble in our world. As an American, I know that we always look at things through the lens of how we were brought up, what we think about the US. And we've discussed it quite a bit about how, at least for myself, I'm trying to unlearn all the things that I learned, because I'm realizing how little context I was given about every other country and what they go through. So for me, yeah, I think reading is super important. And I think I'm going to sound like I'm beating the same drum, but really these books can't be banned, because they open the door to conversation. They open the door to understanding. We just had dinner with people who they've lived in different countries, and they've experienced things that we'll never experience. And politically, I can be up in arms about a lot of things, but it's one thing to say that removed and watch things on my small screen of my phone, and then to be immersed in it and to really embody the rebellion and the fight for your freedoms and for your right to bodily autonomy. That's something totally different. And getting reminders like it through this book of someone who's as young as 10 or 14 or even younger, if we're talking about all of the children in Palestine who are going to survive this and who are going to go into the world and hopefully be leaders and be change makers so that things like that don't happen again. But their stories are going to start to come out sooner than later. We're seeing them through our screens, but one of them is going to write something one day, and it's going to be a reminder of the atrocities that happen in Gaza, or right now Lebanon is being bombed, and same shit a different day. But when we have books like this, when we can step into someone else's experience, we can go, yeah, something has to change.
At the very least, it can be a stepping stone to the less ignorant. And I think that because books like this are not readily available, again, even to this day, Iran and Iraq, it's a very confusing topic for me. And that's because our government doesn't really encourage Americans to look outside of America with empathy outside of Western culture, right?
So I will say, even though it was challenged in all of these states and it's been banned in Chicago and it's been pulled from libraries, generally speaking, most of the people that are, and again, this is a graphic novel, it's super easy to read, but generally speaking, I'm finding that this book is being taught more in universities than it is in high schools or junior high. And I think it's digestible enough for introduction into international relations for a high schooler.
Yeah, I think we face this a lot when we began to dip into the subject of Israel, Palestine, of Ukraine, Russia. These conflicts happen, and then we all go, what the fuck? Americans have been in this little pocket of not understanding or knowing that these frictions are even occurring or why. And so we find out retroactively, and that feels like my experience politically as an American since I was born, is that things are happening in America. We have a lot of content to consume that is within America, and that's even controlled to the utmost. And then things happen outside of America, and we're all going, what the fuck? Why did that happen? And then when you do look into it...
Well, then there's books like this, and sorry, go ahead.
When you do look into it, there's years, decades, lifetimes of frictions, of history that's built up in these areas that we had no about. Because even the history books we're reading when we were in high school and sometimes college are inaccurate.
100%. In the last 5 years, I figured out that Christopher Columbus was a piece of shit.
Son of a bitch. And we Italians love him so much, and shame on us for that.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that an Italian thing?
Italians love Christopher Columbus. They fucking love him.
Really?
He's their little fucking hero. Yeah.
Weird. Anyways.
Older generation Italians.
Really? That's super odd.
Yeah.
Anyways. But yeah, no, I feel like we don't know these histories, and I feel like banning these books, it's just a fear of our search for empathy and us seeing the people that we're supposed to fear as human, right? Like
Well-
it books like this, they cross the line
Mhm.
of a them versus us.
Yeah, and I think that America institutions and Americans are so afraid to look at other countries, other humans that are living within those countries as just humans, just like us.
Yep.
And I think that I see a lot of videos of soldiers that have gone to war and then they come back and they reflect and they go, okay, I killed a guy because he tried to draw his gun on me. But why did he try to draw his gun on me?
I saw that video.
Because I was in his fucking bedroom at 3 a.m.
Right.
And so he was like, if somebody had done that to me, I would have tried to go for my gun as well.
Right.
And now this guy is just sitting next to his wife, dead, because I bulldozed into his house in the middle of the night.
I think that is some sort of retribution that we as Americans are going to have to. I hope that at least we have a collective moment of like really, and I know it's happening and I feel it in myself, but reanalyzing our place in the world and what we've done, because along with learning about the history of the world around us, we really have to and get to acknowledge how we fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I like try to give grace sometimes, even though I obviously know that the implementation of Sharia law and the Iranian Revolution was not great for human rights. I understand that. But I also struggle internally and go, who am I to tell another country how to like, I'm saying this with so much caution, okay?
Mm-hmm.
It's a fine line between when we are so egotistical that we think that our way is the only way, but also there are human rights that are being ignored. And I think that from what I'm gathering and from what I'm learning and from what I'm like becoming awake to in just like a global government kind of movement and like the global leaders that have acknowledged the human rights atrocities that have happened in Iran and in other places, I just go, Western civilization isn't all we're cracked up to be. And we really have thought quite a bit of ourselves for far too long.
Yeah. And I want to take that over to the reasons why I chose the book.
Yeah.
Right. So currently right now we're 4 weeks away from the election of the next president of the United States.
Close. It's not that close.
Where are we? Like 6 weeks maybe?
No, you're probably right.
I think we're getting there. We're closing in. I think it's 6 weeks.
5 weeks.
Yeah, okay, so 5 weeks.
5 weeks tomorrow.
So the reason I second that emotion. And the reason why I chose this book specifically was because Iran women had freedoms. Women had a lot more freedoms than they have right now. And those freedoms were slowly taken away. And I believe that we're in a very similar situation where if we vote and a certain person, Trump, is put
subtle
is put into that office and things we all see the things on the news. He's rejecting the fact that he's involved with Project 2025. But we all know it's bullshit because the people who created Project 2025 are literally on his team. And he's been quoted talking about Project 2025 several times, right? So the reason why he's distancing himself from the project is because it is widely, be it conservative or be it liberal, be it Democrat, be it Republican, it's widely rejected because it completely rolls back, or it's at least this huge plan that's basically outlining rollbacks of rights, of capabilities, of just everything that we've known to be our day-to-day life.
Let's just go super simple. During the debate, he was asked about Project 2025. He obviously tries to distance himself from that. He's asked point blank several times if a national abortion ban were to land on his desk, if he would sign it. And he refuses to sign it by saying, oh, unrealistic. It would never happen. We got everything we already wanted. But that is the goal of Project 2025. It's these small rollouts that focus on small government and then eventually turn into big government all over again. And he can try to separate himself, but he's mentioned over 200 times in the full how many pages of it is.
You're right.
So you listen, we're not going to beat around the bush. A Trump administration cannot happen. We would literally lose our right to bodily autonomy. We would lose our
We'd
our
be
protections as women, as gays, as theys. We would,
we're going headfirst into a dictatorship.
right.
Is what it is. So I have a few references here about how the Islamic Republic and Project 2025 are similar. When we're talking about religion and ideological governance, Islamic Republic, the government is ruled by Islamic law with religious leaders holding ultimate authority. Project 2025, the government could be based on a dominant ideology, which is religious or otherwise, with strict adherence to its principles enforced by those in power, which we know are Christian values, right? Or some people would call Christian values. I wouldn't say that they are. I'm not Christian, but I've been around a lot of good Christians, and I know that not all Christians line up with those ideologies. Suppression of women's rights, which is really what I would like to scream from the rooftops here. The Islamic Republic women face restrictions such as mandatory veiling and are treated as second-class citizens. Project 2025, women's rights are going to be suppressed through religious, nationalist, and patriarchal policies. I can never say patriarchal. So women's rights are completely down the line to be suppressed through religious, nationalist, and patriarchal policies that limit their freedom and roles in society. They want us to stay at home as well. They want us to cook. They want us to clean. They don't want us out in the middle of the world, right?
Well, shocker, birth rates are down and more women are single than ever before, and they're choosing to be single.
Because men are minning.
Because men are minning. Men are not coming up to bat. They're not stepping their game up. They're realizing that women are changing, and instead of evolving and evolving with us and evolving the species as a whole and going like, we are getting better, they're going, let's take some of your rights away and let's put you back in the kitchen. Let's make you a little baby machine again.
Yeah, they're truly scared. Censorship and control of information. The Islamic Republic, the regime censors media, banning Western culture and political dissent. Project 2025, the information would be tightly controlled with the government using advanced technology to censor the internet, media, social platforms, and suppress opposition and dissenting ideas.
We don't talk about this a lot. Right now is not the time for it, but with AI and the evolution of AI, like literally today is the worst it'll ever be ever again.
Mm-hmm.
It just keeps getting better and better with the option of AI generated videos and manipulation of audio without actual checks and balances. The ability for political propaganda that already is out of fucking control would be even worse.
So surveillance and social monitoring. Islamic Republic, the moral police, quote unquote, they patrol in the streets and they're ensuring that people follow religious or social laws. Project 2025 states that a surveillance state could use AI, facial recognition, and social scoring to monitor and control citizens, enforcing conformity to government standards. So the party that is saying that they want less government is going to just bolster up on utilizing the government, weaponizing the government to take away rights and make everybody conform to their standards. Suppression of political dissent. The Islamic Republic, political opponents are arrested, tortured, and are executed for opposing the regime. Project 2025. Dissent is similarly suppressed, with activists, journalists, and opposition figures imprisoned or silenced through fear, violence, or exile.
If you need proof of that, just listen to Trump talk about any journalist ever. As if he doesn't like them, they're fake.
They're fake news.
We've heard fake media, fake news, fake everything all the time. But also, journalists exist to expose the truth. Like, that is the uncomfortable work of journalism.
And journalists are putting their lives on the line to do so, right? It's a field that we need to preserve. It's highly respectable. It's highly respected. We need to protect them at all costs. Control of education and indoctrination. So Islamic Republic, the schools and universities are used to indoctrinate students with Islamic ideology. Project 2025, education may be used to instill loyalty to the regime, promoting a single narrative and discouraging critical thinking or alternative viewpoints. We all know that a lot of strict Christians or people, we'll say specifically people like the people that are involved in Project 2025, fundamentalists, they don't want you to critically think. They want you to only know about Christianity, and they want to preserve the rights and religious rights of Christians specifically. And they don't like to hear anything about Muslims, Islam, maybe even other variations of Christianity make them uncomfortable. So that's obviously terrible, and that's not anything that we want in a country that claims to be free. The use of external threats to justify control, this is a big one. So Islamic Republic, the Iran-Iraq war was used to unify the country and justify repression. Project 2025, external threats, either real or fabricated, could be used by the government to rally nationalism, impose emergency laws, and suppress civil liberties. And we see that from that party a lot anyway.
Yeah.
It's a fear-based party. They're literally going around giving misinformation, saying that people want to change your child's gender in school. They're going to go off one day.
That's been my favorite time.
Yeah.
They're like, you send Tommy off to school.
He comes home as a lady.
I'm like, it's literally not happening.
That's
everywhere.
not. And I think that, again, that's misinformation. So things like gender affirming care, also including things like counseling, to make sure that when your child does grow up and make that choice, that they're not just doing it because they're locked in their own head, that they are talking to the right people about it. And you would think as a parent that you'd be on board with stuff like that. Mandatory conformity to dress and social norms, right? So the Islamic Republic citizens are forced to follow Islamic dress codes and moral laws. Project 2025, the government is predicted to enforce strict social norms, so dress codes, public behavior, as a way to maintain control and prevent rebellion and individualism. So basically a country full of Christian school uniforms, right? Something like that. Centralization of power, Islamic Republic, the power is concentrated into the hands of the supreme leader and religious authorities. Project 2025, power may be centralized around a single leader or a ruling party. We know right now that they're rallying around Trump to be their champion for their ideals. They have no real democratic process backed up for that. It's basically going to be a political dictatorship is what they're setting them up for. And then the last one that I'll just point out is the use of propaganda to maintain loyalty. Now, that's already completely an Americanized situation. We're already living in that. But if you get Project 2025 behind, like Adria was stating, the AI and the advancements that we have, it could get way worse. So instilling more fear in the general public. So the Islamic Republic, they state that media and religious institutions promote loyalty to the regime and demonize its enemies. And that's the sole reason for the media. So Project 2025 is propaganda is predicted to be enhanced by AI and digital manipulation, and it could be used to maintain popular support for the regime. And I do want to make sure that we're understanding that Project 2025 is a regime. Let's not sugarcoat it. Yeah, let's not sugarcoat it right now. It's a regime. So they're going to use it to create an us versus them mentality and suppress opposition, which a lot of key members in that party are already utilizing because they are backing Project 2025. So there's a lot of similarities between the Islamic Republic and what's being put on the table right now, which is Project 2025. And they literally have it in the title. What is it? When Trump gets back into power, they've got their playbook. They want to start rolling back rights. And I'm not saying that we would be exactly like the women and men that are now in Iran, but it would be the American version of it. And it's not the America that I'm going to live in. So the interesting thing that we are going forward with, and the thing that I'm having a hard time wrapping my mind around, is that this is literally in writing, and there's still conservatives that are denying the fact that the person that they're supporting is supported by this.
Right.
And
and he's been endorsed by the KKK and all that shit. He's not racist.
Right.
I'm tired.
Yeah, it's
I'm tired of this, Grandpa.
It's honestly, and people are still, and I love the people that are doing this because I used to do this all the time, which is debate online. But I will not ever do it again. And if we do get any commenters, on our media posts and stuff like that who want to do that, we're uninterested because at this point, with all of the information that you have at your fingertips, if you want to remain brainwashed, go for it. I'm not here to be your teacher, to be your educator. That's not my role in your life. Right. If you're interested in a whole wealth of knowledge and how your party could improve, it's out there. It's at your fingertips. You carry a literal phone, a smartphone, where you can look up anything. And also, every time that a diehard Trump supporter is given proof that their leader is a straight up son of a bitch, a straight up piece of shit that is a racist, sexist, fucking son of a bitch. I'm just saying that when he leaves this earth, I will not be sad that his energy is gone, right? He's a dictator. He's stupid. If he were not a millionaire, he would not survive on the world. Let's be honest. He'd be one of those.
Just creepy and weird. And he's got like this weird ass fucking buy-in. And I this is the part of my personality that I hate, is that I did read J.D. Vance's book, the Hillbilly Eulogy, and you did too. Mm-hmm. And it really gave me perspective. And this was before he was announced as the VP. So
no, I actually asked her to read it because I saw so many alignments with my own family and I wanted her to get an insight as to what I grew up around.
And I do want to empathize, and I don't want to discount the American experience of the people who felt like they've been left behind and like all the things, whatever. But I really have always had a hard time, even in 2020, even in 2016, understanding Trumpism specifically. Mm-hmm. I can't believe I miss like George W. Bush because it was a time where we're really, at least, even though I thought George Bush was stupid, he was like a politician and he had like agendas, and he had at the front of his mind, like how to, in their own way, the same with Reagan, trying to make their version of what they think America is the greatest version of itself. And it's very nationalist, and it's very like us first and not them. And you guys know my shit. I have beef with Kamala too. Like, she just made a really, really right-wing speech talking about her views on immigration and how she's gonna, if they're not seeking asylum the right way, then they have to wait for 5 years. All kinds of shit. I think there's issues on both sides. But Trumpism to me is a whole different breed because it's not based on policy. It's not based on what he's doing for them. It's not based on his history of success, because he really doesn't have, like, his administration was a failure in a lot of ways. Like,
it's lucky he had COVID to lean on, because that's the only justification that he has.
Everyone who talked about him in 2016 and was like, we need a businessman and we need this, like, he increased our deficit by like over $5 billion, right?
Yeah.
So
not as many American jobs, obviously.
He didn't create as many American jobs. He really is just, he's a bad politician. I don't know why he is still politically relevant. I don't think he went into a debate with an actual politician, a prosecutor who has been through like the different tiers of our judicial system. Mm-hmm. And when asked about his plan, he had an idea of a fucking plan.
They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats.
I'm honestly I'm so fucking tired of it. But anyways, all that to be said, there's a lot of links between Project 2025 and something that we see like in a book like this. So same thing, different day. Thank you so much for listening to us, because I think that it's so important that we keep reading books like this. Books that I never heard about, books that I hadn't been exposed to, because if we stop engaging with stories like these, then we lose something vital. We lose our ability to learn from the past and to empathize with those who are different with us. And that's why we keep talking about books like this. And that's why we put this whole podcast together, because for those of us who are feeling just at our very absolute wit's end with what's happening around us, we at least have a place to go to and go, I need this touchstone of reality, and going, okay, not everyone is so extreme one way or the other. All of us want the human experience to be somewhat enjoyable. And I know I said this in one of our episodes before, and if I don't remember which one it was, but what is the actual goal? And you were like, power, power, control. And
For the actual goal for whom?
For anyone, like I wake up and I want to have the best day that I can. And I wake up and I do things in my day, in my 9 to 5, to try to make things better for the people around me. When I look at people who put together documents like Project 2025 or who implement things like the Islamic Republic, I'm just confused. What is this need to have control over every person around you? To take something fundamentally away because you're missing something, to me just screams of a lack. Like something is lacking within you. And I'm lucky enough to be surrounded by people who see it for what it is, and
it's small dick energy.
and who want to find connection, who want to make space and make room for everyone's experience. And all of us have we have a human right to pursue our wants, needs, and hopes, right? As long as they are not at a cost to someone else.
I don't know. The Spanish would have a different take on that historically.
Oh, yeah. But like that's what I mean is I don't understand. I don't understand the intrinsic motivation to dominate others.
Yeah, and that's what makes you not a dictator. And
except in this house.
She put it down with a little finger when she said it too.
Not around here, partner.
Not around here, partner. Not around here. And that's true. No, I'm just kidding. But we
will make the bed every day in this house.
We all know that when you're in a lesbian relationship, it's really the feminine one that wears the pants. And our household is no exception to that. And I'm so happy to be a part of that. I think we've probably talked your ear off a lot. Again, I really was very intentional when I picked this book because of what we have ahead of us. And I want to be realistic about the consequences that could potentially be there if we don't get the right person in office. But I know we're all going to do what we got to do. And by the way, what you guys are doing to Chapel Rowan is bullshit. Stop it. Now, I really do like women of color out there. I'm really trying to hold space for you and understand to the best of my ability how you feel about her speaking out in that capacity, which you have a right to your feelings. That's all I want to say. And me as a white woman, I understand that I will never get anywhere near understanding what your experience is like in this world. So I do apologize. And I'll just leave it there. I'm not even going to say a but. If you've heard our podcast, you know that we said the exact thing that Chapel Rowan was saying. And again, a lot of the reasons why we're saying those things.
I have beef with Kamala.
Right.
I'm going to vote for her. Like, let's not.
We're going to vote for her.
We're going to vote for her.
She's the better candidate.
She's the better. But that's but that's where I was going with this. That's the difference between a MAGA Republican and then just like a regular schmegular individual human being who critically thinks, right?
Schmegular. Just a regular reg schmeg.
Who just critically thinks. I'm going to go, okay, I'm looking at the two people in front of me. Obviously not that one. Obviously that one. But can I also critique her stances? Yeah. Like, yeah, I'm not endorsing her. Who the fuck am I to endorse her? Sure. But I'm not endorsing her, but I'm going to vote for her because she's the better of the two options. And yet I can still see the imperfections. That is the fucking point. Public servants are here to serve us. Mm-hmm. Like, we vote they literally don't have a job without us. We vote them into place. And that's not to be like one of those fucking Karens who goes into a TJ Maxx and is, you work for me. No, it's so different. You get to look at your politicians and go, you're here to do the will of the people. And if the will of the people is not a fucking nationwide abortion ban, then fucking listen. If the will of the people is not to support Israel with guns, ammunition, and tanks to fucking commit atrocities and genocide, then listen. And if you don't listen, then guess what? That's why we have voting. That's why it's on a cyclical basis. That's why it's every 4 years. That's why we're scared of the possibility of losing the right to vote in another 4 years after a Trump reinstatement in 2024, because it's a possibility that we would not have that. So for Chappell Roan to look at Kamala Harris and go, I'm going to vote for you because she did say it. I'm going to vote for her, but I'm not going to endorse her because I don't stand behind everything that she says. Absolutely. That is the fucking right to be an American. That is for everyone who wants to bolster America and bleed blue, black, and white, red, white, and blue, red, white, and blue, and Star Spangled Banner and all this shit.
If we're trying to bleed purple, yellow, and red, we got to get our shit together.
Like that, fundamentally, it is her right to critique our politicians because we vote them into place to do our bidding, to do what is best for us. That is the whole fucking point. That is why they put in the fucking electoral college to, in theory, elect someone who represents the people. It doesn't fucking work. That's a whole different story for a different day. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Yeah. But anyway,
I'm trying to wrap it up.
We're trying to wrap it up.
Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you
for listening to us. Thank you for going on these. And I hope we're not great about posting ahead of time what we're going to read. So I hope that after these episodes, you guys are going and reading these books because they're fucking awesome. There hasn't really been one that I wouldn't recommend. Like House on Mango Street, still one of my favorites since we read it. This one, top. I'm going to read the rest of it.
All Boys Aren't Blue, still. Honestly, all of them.
Yeah.
All of them have given me.
Even the Britney book.
The Britney book, I was just posting content on that one the other day, and there's still so much to think about there. And we're going to
stay curious, stay informed, stay inquisitive, critically think about everything around you, read banned books, read in general, talk to the people around you, make connections, empathize, learn, grow, develop, participate in the human experience.
Yeah. And thank you so much for listening in, like Adria was saying. And just a reminder, no matter who you are, no matter where you are, we love you.
We love you.